we as melanated people can relate to it, and it's a lot to digest because it's really altering how we look at ourselves and how we raise our children.
Yeah, I'm growing already.
It's no doubt, man.
Dang.
That's always the goal, right? You know, and
Yeah.
I
Crazy.
remember during the session with Miss Yvette Myers, where she was explaining to me how a teenager gets to a point where you gave an example of a ladder and the rungs in the ladder and how
Uh-huh.
the at one point in time the child has the parent on the top rung, but then as they become into the teenage years, the parent is kind of demoted off that top rung. Can you please explain that scenario of what's happening with the teenager and how the parent can better prepare for that and deal with that?
So the way that I gave it to you, and I forgot that I told you about that. So the way that it is, if you imagine a ladder, and the top rungs are the has the greatest influence. The bottom rungs has the least influence. Now, as a child grows, as they're born in the, you start out with one of my pet peeves. I'm telling y'all, all my pet peeves is with when I hear parents say, "Ain't nothing wrong with my baby, let them cry." What you breed is a child that can't trust their caretakers, and so a child learns to fend for themselves. And so as they grow, they start to realize that, they don't have anybody to look out for them. And that's the difference between a child that's being spoiled and a child that just needs a little bit of love. But we're so busy in our lives that, to hold a child as you feed them is an inconvenience. Just sit them in a car seat and prop a bottle up. That's the time where you make connections. You make eye contact as you're feeding your child. And what that does is it breeds connectedness. And the child learns to trust you through that human interaction and that connection.
Wow.
So
Okay.
the more connection that you and your child has, the older that they grow, you know what I'm saying? Now when they get about 5 or 6, I'm gonna talk about Yvette for a minute. 5 or 6 years old, I looked up to my mom. 7, 8, 9, 10. She's probably at, what I'm saying, at the top type rung, but her foot was on the next one underneath. You know what I'm saying? So by the time I get 12, 13, she probably 3 or 4 down. By the time I get 16, she trying to get to the first rung. You know what
Wow.
I'm saying? Because,
Yeah.
she don't know what she's talking about. She old timing. She don't know, things ain't like they were when you were growing up, mom.
Uh-huh.
And I did the same thing as my children was getting older. The thing that I think I did different was I understood that I didn't have much influence. And they're like, we ain't gonna even talk about the moments that, I remember with my sons. And if y'all listening to this, just I'm not gonna tell all your business. But I remember my sons, both of my boys and my daughter, when they came home one night, and I looked them in the face and I realized that I had dropped, that I wasn't, as high as I was. Because all three of my children, I looked them in the eyes and I said, "You had sex last night."
Wow.
And they was like, my son was like, "Mom, why would you ask me that? Why would you ask me that?" I said, "That's a yes or no." "Yes, ma'am." I was like, "I know, I can." It's like you can see it. So it's just knowing, and you cannot. This ain't gonna cost you nothing. This little piece of information. Once your child starts having sex, ain't nothing you can tell them. You can't argue with pillow talk. All you have to do is just come at them
Hold
logically.
up, hold up, hold
You
up,
can't argue with it.
hold up. You can't argue with pillow talk.
You can't argue
Wow.
with pillow talk. No matter what I say to
Wow.
you, no matter
uh,
how reasonable I am, there are
uh,
two spaces that people argue or they stand in:
yeah.
emotions or logic. So
Emotions or logic.
if you're trying to logically get your child out of a space and they're in that space emotionally,
Emotionally,
walk away. You ain't gonna argue. You can't argue with that. You
you can't.
can't force them out. You can't even pull them out. You're just gonna
Mm.
allow them, have to allow them. All you gotta do is just build up a fence, and then just be on the side to knock them back in ever so often. You know what I'm saying? Make it more difficult for them to get, you know what I'm saying, to become less